This is the Municipality of Anchorage Planning and Zoning Commission for October 1st, 2012 at 6:30 p.m. Madam Secretary, would you please do the roll?
Connie Yoshimura,
Here.
Bruce Phelps,
Here.
Stacy Dean,
Here.
Terry Parks,
Here.
Dana Cruz,
Here.
Ray Hickle,
Here.
Peter Mulcahy,
Here.
James Ferguson,
Here.
Tyler Robinson.
Here.
All right. Thank you very much. There are no minutes, if I recall correctly. And may we have disclosures? Commissioner Parks, Vice Chair, would you please do the disclosures?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Phelps?
No.
Commissioner Dean?
No.
Commissioner Hickle?
Yes, I was not present for the September 10th, 2012 meeting, and I'll be abstaining from Resolution 2012-044.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Yes, I abstained from deliberations on Resolution 2012-044, and so I will be abstaining from that resolution as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Ferguson?
None.
Commissioner McCahey?
None.
And Madam Chair?
In regards to Resolution 2012-44, I was not present, so I will be abstaining from that vote.
And I have none.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to special order of business. Well, first of all, I would like to announce that there has been some postponement that I've just been informed of. Case G1 2012-110, Municipality of Anchorage Public Works Department, regarding public facility site selection. This has been postponed to November 5th, 2012. So if you're here for that case, that has been postponed. And in conjunction with that, 2012-122, the Municipality of Anchorage, an amendment to the Hillside District Plan, that case has also been postponed. So this was just brought to my attention. Can I need a positive motion for postponement? Ms. Dean.
I move to postpone case 2012-110 and case 2012-122 for one does not have a date, the other one does. The 2012-110 is postponed until November 5th, 2012. And the Hillside District Plan 2012-122 does not have a date.
I would imagine, since they're interrelated, that it is the same. Thank you. Is there any, seconded by Commissioner Parks, is there any objection? Seeing and hearing none, those cases are postponed, but I would like to ask staff, when was this decision made to postpone? Because I was not aware of it, and it was just laid on the table tonight.
I apologize for that, Madam Chair. It was just a couple of days ago, but we'll make sure that you get immediate notification next time.
Thank you very much, because, you know, we do read our packets, and I'm sure that there are several hours that have been wasted as of yesterday and today as a result of that. So, thank you. All right, moving on to under C2, Special Order of Business Case 2012-121, request for a rehearing of a major amendment to an existing conditional use for an habilitative care facility in the R2M zone. This is not a public hearing, and what is the wish of the Commission at this time? Do we need to have a comment from staff at this particular point in time?
Madam Chair, if the Commission would like, I can review the memorandum that I've provided. I also want to just mention that Tony Barrett from DHHS is here this evening.
All right, thank you very much. What is the wish of the Commission?
Madam Chair, I think it would be appropriate for us to hear from staff prior to
Okay.
making a decision, so I would like to hear from staff in their position.
All right,
For
thank you
public-
very much. Ms. Iverson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On August 6th, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted Resolution 2012-030 denying Case 2012-063, a major amendment to an existing conditional use for a habilitative care facility. On August 27th, the South Central Foundation filed a motion for rehearing with the municipal clerk based on 3 points. If the Planning and Zoning Commission decides that there is new evidence or changed circumstances presented in the motion for rehearing that would substantially change the decision of the Commission can decide to reopen the public hearing. The Planning Division would set the date for a public hearing and send out public notices to the property owners. The Commission also, if you choose to reopen the hearing, needs to decide what the extent of the subject matter is and the limitations on the public hearing. The Commission can decide to reopen the entire case and all subject matter, or the Commission can decide to limit the hearing to a specific subject matter or point raised in the motion for rehearing. If the Commission decides that there is not sufficient new evidence or changed circumstances, the Commission can decide not to rehear the case, and the petitioner then has the option to file for an appeal with the Board of Adjustments. So to review the 3 points that the petitioner made in their motion for rehearing, the first point was regarding the habilitative care classification. And in the motion, the petitioner states that South Central was informed that the Department of Health and Human Services will grant a habilitative care facility license for the existing 48-bed facility, which thus must illustrate that they qualify as a habilitative care facility. The response from the department is that as of the date the staff report was written, that South Central has not received a license from the Department of Health and Human Services for the existing facility. There were 2 issues that needed to be resolved at the time of writing this report. The first was the need for an approved health and medical plan, and the second was the need to clarify that the existing program that was applied for under the DHHS permit, that is a residential facility providing intensive recovery to individuals whose lives have been affected by domestic violence, sexual abuse, and neglect, is permitted under the 2008 conditional use permit. The resolution in the 2008 conditional use states that the approval is for a habilitative care facility use operated by South Central Foundation for a 48-bed adult training and education program for adult Native Alaskans. According to the meeting minutes, there is reference to a treatment program for adult Native Alaskans who have or are suffering. The reference to the program as a treatment program was removed from the language of the conditional use permit. I included on the table the email correspondence that I responded to from the Commission this afternoon, and on the back of that there are 2 pages that reflect this conversation, removing this language from the conditional use. This was also part of the original application and staff packet to the Commission regarding this. So if you want to look at that, we can look at that further. The Planning Division concurs with DHHS that there is a need to clarify that what South Central is describing their program as, that is an intensive recovery program, is permitted under the 2008 conditional use permit. So in conclusion, considering that at the time of denial a DHHS permit had not been issued and that circumstance has not changed, the department recommends that new evidence or changed circumstances has not been demonstrated. And the department recommends that the South Central Foundation ask for an amendment to their existing conditional use to clarify that an intensive recovery program is permitted underneath the 2008 conditional use permit. The second point is regarding the road system capacity. And the staff's position is that new evidence or changed circumstances was not demonstrated in the motion, and it just further it provided further support to statements already made by staff in the original staff report. The third point was regarding compliance with the 2008 conditional use permit. And in the motion for rehearing, the petitioner provided evidence to support the claim that the South Central Foundation is meeting the terms of its 2008 conditional use permit, specifically regarding fencing, smoking, and the level of security, which were the questions raised during the hearing by the Commission. Through this process, the Land Use Enforcement Office has determined that the petitioner is meeting the condition of the 2008 conditional use with regards to these matters, smoking and fencing. And the Land Use Enforcement Office has clarified that the petitioner is required to provide 24-hour on-site security only while training sessions are taking place. And for this point, the department does feel like new evidence has been demonstrated. It's up to the Commission to decide whether this is substantial enough to warrant a rehearing. But the department recommends, simply because there is new evidence under point 3, that the Commission reopen the public hearing and limit the subject matter to evidence regarding compliance with the 2008 conditional use permit. And the department also recommends that the South Central Foundation ask for an amendment to their existing conditional use to clarify that an intensive recovery program is permitted under the 2008 conditional use permit.
Thank you. I think we'd like to hear from the DHS representative at this time.
Through the chair, I think that the planning staff has pretty well summarized our feeling and our recommendation, and would pretty much stand with what they've recommended. We think that it would be very helpful if the applicant were to ask the Planning Commission for clarification of what the 2008 conditional use permit actually allows. There is some confusion about what treatment means and about what treatment is being provided, and in the minutes from the 2008 hearing and in the findings of fact and in the conditions, it seems to limit them to treatment only, or excuse me, to training only. If it is training only, it does not require a permit from DHHS. We couldn't issue one, we wouldn't issue one, is not required. If it is treatment and training, then we probably would be necessary to issue a permit.
If I could have some clarification from staff, but the issue at hand is not to ask the applicant. That's not, they've asked for a rehearing. They haven't asked for anything else. That is my understanding, that they would have to make a new application for clarification or for a change? Could someone give us some guidance on that matter?
Yes, Madam Chair. With the only matter before the Commission this evening is to decide whether or not to reopen the hearing based on the 3 points provided to you. The issue about the treatment versus training and the 2008 only came to be discussed because of the context of why we did not feel that the first point was new information.
So if they wanted, so the issue at hand tonight is not an amendment to their 2008 conditional use. That would have to come under a separate application. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, through the chair. Let me get this straight on the amendment. Is it an amendment that we're asking the petitioner to make, or are we asking to make a determination on whether that amendment is even needed?
It's my understanding that the only thing that we are here to address tonight is whether or not there is enough new evidence to reopen the public hearing, as if the evidence, the new evidence that has been presented would substantially change the decision of the Commission. That's all we're doing this evening. We're not addressing any amendment. That amendment to a conditional use would have to come from the petitioner under a separate application. Is that not correct?
Madam Chair, that is correct. If you did decide to reopen the hearing, we could work with the petitioner to explore whether or not they also wanted to bring that as part of the application. So you don't need to deal with it today.
Right.
I guess I would say that if there is a hearing, and given that there's some question related to the 2008 permit, that we would actually, in order to do our jobs, require that we address or staff flush out whether, what the standing of the 2008 permit actually is. In other words, I mean, we can't have one without the other.
Thank you. Is there is a motion on the floor. Are there any other comments at this time? Or questions from staff? Commissioner Parks.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion in case number 2012-121, which is a motion to rehear case 2012-063, a major amendment to the existing conditional use. I would make a motion that we approve this request.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Robinson. Thank you.
I would like to speak to my motion, if I could, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
This case was one of the cases that I will not be supporting my motion, because I think we did hear from the public, and what they brought forward is a very small technical piece that really wouldn't affect my decision in this particular matter. And I think that it was somewhat poorly presented to us as a group, maybe not understanding totally everything that's there and their needs. So I will not be supporting this motion.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Ferguson.
I have a question. If we rehear it, that would involve another public hearing.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Phelps.
I, too, will not be supporting this motion for exactly the same reasons as described by the other commissioner. I just don't see this as being substantive enough to really warrant a review.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Mulcahy.
I just wanted to say I would not be supporting the same thing as Commissioner Phelps and Commissioner Parks, same reasons. I guess I should ask the question earlier. If we do not hear tonight, it's closed, what is the next step? Is this completely dead, or do they have to?
I believe that based upon the comments made by staff, that they can appeal our decision to the Board of Adjustment, or they could come forward with a new major amendment that would hopefully clarify their program and clarify some of the issues that have been raised from their 2008 conditional use. Are there any other comments? I, too, will not be supporting this motion because I do not feel that there's been brought forth enough new evidence that would substantially change my previous position. Is there any objection to, well, let's see, how should we do this? We need to vote. Yes, we will. Would you please use your machines? All right. The request to rehear case 2012-121 has been denied. Commissioner Parks.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer some findings, if I could, please.
Yes, thank you.
As we heard the report from the staff recommended that this not be reheard in case number 2012-121. And it was on page 2 of the packet that we had. One is the point for reclassification. The staff didn't feel that they met the requirements for a hearing on the demonstrated issues that they had in the point. On point number 2, the road system capacity, they also believe that they did not meet the requirements of evidence, additional evidence that would make a difference in this particular case. However, in point 3, there could be an argument that there was room that this did meet the conclusion that there was some land use issues there, things which we felt as a group did not make a significant difference in this case.
Thank you very much. Are there any other further comments or findings of fact? All right, seeing and hearing none, we will move on to the unfinished business that we have in E1, case 2012-048. I'll back up for just a minute and do the consent agenda. Thank you all very much. All right. Well, you see, I wasn't voting on that, so, I didn't care. All right. So, Resolution 2012-044, related case 2012-106. Is there any objection to the resolution? Seeing and hearing none, that resolution is approved. Thank you very much. All right, now we're moving on to E1, unfinished business and actions of public hearings, case 2012-048, the Municipality of Anchorage Project Management and Engineering Context-Sensitive Design Plan for a Public Road. May we hear... so now I have to do the thing for the public... No, this is not a public hearing. It's closed. So, staff?
Madam Chair, yes, the Commission had asked for further information. They wanted the design consultant on this particular project to go and speak to DOT to get more information. DOT has produced a letter in answer to your questions that you received tonight. I don't know, do we have yes, the design consultant is here tonight. I'm not certain whether or not a representative from DOT is here or not, but no, they didn't. There is no representative from DOT, so you just have the letter in your packet from DOT.
So are you saying there is someone here to speak to this?
There is someone, the design consultant is here tonight, CRW. They are here to speak to it.
All right. Thank you. What is the wish of the Commission? Would you like to hear from the design consultant? All right. Where is this person?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Wendy Wilbur with CRW Engineering, and I'm representing Project Management and Development. And I have Todd Jacobson, also representing Project Management and Development with me. At this point, you have the letter from the Department of Transportation in front of you. The municipality really is in no position to comment further on this letter. They've made their position very clear. We did invite them to attend tonight, and they declined.
So if I do have a question. So if I understand the letter correctly, our victory, albeit a small one, is a light at Golden View and Rabbit Creek?
A flashing yellow caution light.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Commissioner Phelps.
A question of clarification. Going back to this item that occurred some number of weeks ago, and I think that, was there a motion on the floor? I can't recall. Or were we simply asking for additional information?
I thought we tabled it.
All right. Could the Secretary clarify, please?
If you'll just bear with me, I'll quickly run down the events. It was initially on the agenda as information. on December 5th. It was pulled from the consent agenda on May 7th, and there was a motion to hold a public hearing. That public hearing was held on July 2nd, 2012. The motions were withdrawn. There were motions on the table. They were all withdrawn, and they moved to postpone at that meeting, pending for 90 days, pending response from the state and further info from staff.
All right, thank you very much. We've had this a long time, so let's get rid of it tonight. Commissioner Phelps, do you have any further comment?
No.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ferguson.
Okay, so what's the intended process now?
Well, tonight we would ask the Commission to approve the Design Study Report, Alternative 1, with the planning conditions 1 through 3.
Which we don't have in front of us, unfortunately, right now.
Yeah.
You don't. Commissioner Ferguson. Was that your comment?
Yeah, that's my comment.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mulcahy.
I've got the minutes from July 2nd here, and there were several topics that we were, amendments being offered. I think Commissioner, Pruz had concerns over the lighting. I think there was some more on, there were several. And it went, turn lanes, yeah, there were several amendments we were in discussion on, and then we got deadlock over the ADOT and decided to table. So I think we have several folks who wanted to make amendments, and I don't know if anybody's prepared to do that this evening, unfortunately.
Commissioner Phelps.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem I have right now is that, excuse me, this is a substantive issue, and we asked for information. We got clarification on one of the issues, but the dilemma I have is that whereas I'd like to vote on this evening, I don't have any information with which to make a decision, and I can't recall the discussion 3 or 4 weeks ago. In a situation like this in the future, I would ask the staff provide the information to us again.
Yes, I think that would be very appropriate. Ms. McConnell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify that the department recommendations should be on page 5 of your packet. I see. We
did not get that.
We have different packets. I apologize.
We did not receive our packet for E1.
Yeah.
So all we got was the letter from DOT with the flashing yellow light.
Yep.
Lucinda Mahoney. Right.
If we tabled this again, when would be the next time we could get the packet? When could we get this information?
Through the chair, Madam Chair and Mr. Mulcahy, we could schedule it for next Monday.
Commissioner Phelps.
Yeah, I would move that we postpone until next week. That'll give us the information we need to have and can make a decision at that time. At this time, I don't have sufficient information to make a decision.
All right. That's a motion to postpone by Commissioner Phelps, seconded by Commissioner Ferguson. Commissioner Pruz, do you have a comment?
I do. If we bring this up next week, will we have the opportunity to amend this at that time? Would it present itself for something to have a work session on it? To talk about that? There's a lot of questions.
We have a work session. Where's the calendar?
Madam Chair, you have 2 work sessions next week. The work sessions start at 5:30 and the regular meeting starts at 7. You have a follow-up on the Chugach State Park Access Plan and then a work session on the municipal CIP.
Well, obviously, this road is very important, and we've been dealing with it for a very long time. and certainly the municipal CIP is of significant importance. But I don't believe the Chugach State Park Access Plan has any specific agenda as far as scheduling is concerned. Is that correct?
I believe so.
All right, so let's put the Golden View Drive case in instead of the Chugach Park Access Plan, which would then also change our agenda. So we will not be voting on the Chugach State Park Access Plan at that meeting also.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right.
Madam Chair, may I ask
yes.
a point for clarification? We submitted an entire packet back in May 7th, which was carried over to the July 2nd meeting. As a petitioner, are we required to resubmit that package since our case has been postponed twice?
You would, no. Staff will simply recopy that packet with the minutes of the meeting, and we'll have that to deal with. Ms. Dean.
Madam Chair, I do have one comment to make related to the documents. I'd like to know why it's not in Granicus that we can look at it right now. That is the whole point of Granicus.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Well, this is the second issue this evening that we've had regarding staff. We've had 2 postponements that the commissioners were unaware of until they got to the meeting, and now we have an inadequate packet. So please carry those concerns back to the director. Thank you. Commissioner Ferguson.
I was going to ask, I guess I got a comment and a question. I was aware of the postponements like on Thursday when I got an email with the revised agenda, so I was aware of it last week.
All right, thank you.
Second point is, how are these packets going to be delivered? Is E1 going to be delivered? Are we going to get them Monday night next week?
No, we can, first of all, we could email them tomorrow if you desire to have them.
No.
All right.
We can have it sent to your
courier
packet
them
next week.
Yeah.
It'll be included. But another point that we want to make is that to reproduce these packets are very, very expensive. If you get a report that's multi-paged, color, photographs, it's 100 pages long, that's really expensive to have to reproduce, either for the petitioner's representative or for the staff. And we do appreciate if you know that you're postponing it and you know that case is coming back, if you could please hang on to those reports because you know it's coming back again. We'd really very much appreciate if you could do that. Thank you.
A reminder would sure help us.
Okay, we'll try and do that.
Yes, a reminder would be very helpful, and also when you're emailing a change in the agenda, if you could push the red exclamation button and title it Revised Agenda, that would also be very, very helpful. Thank you. All right. Lucinda Mahoney. Who is Lucinda Mahoney?
She's the Director of Finance.
So somebody is logged on as her.
I'm sitting in her place, sorry.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mulcahy.
I was just going to state that I am able to access both the plan and the minutes. They are posted out there, but working with it on that screen would be
okay.
a little bit. And a little reminder. I would have brought the packet. Would have been fine. But is there going to be a staff with this new information? Is there going to be a modified recommendation? The recommendation will stay the same?
The recommendation will stay the same.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The 218-page packet did come up on Granicus. I wonder whether it's just slow because it's so large.
Okay.
Just as an FYI.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Parks.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask the petitioner's representative a couple of questions, if I could. It sounds like to me when you went to DOT, you got absolutely no help. And is that a correct statement? I mean, they came with a flashing yellow light when we were trying to adjust lighting and turn lanes and straightening the road and those kind of concerns that we have on this big of a project. Is that a right characteristic of the discussion you had with them?
I think they maintain their position that they want to complete this hillside intersection study and prioritize their limited funding for the hillside, and they will continue to work with us as we develop this project incrementally.
Did they give you a time frame?
No, they did not. Right now, the hillside intersection request for proposals, it has been funded by the state, and so it will come out to RFP. So I would say if I was looked into my crystal ball, 1 to 2 years. Oh, I guess the letter says the end of 2013. So about a year.
Okay. And how does that affect this particular plan?
Well, the bottom line is it's a big project. If you look at the intersection and you look at Golden View Drive, this project will have to be phased and it will have to be built incrementally. Golden View Drive is one piece of the puzzle to make the whole system work. So the Golden View Drive piece could go ahead and continue. That infrastructure could get in place, address the drainage, the failing pavement, and some of the safety issues while we're waiting for DOT to do their study and look at that intersection and come up with a solution there.
And you're making assumptions that their intersection will interface with that road correctly without having to redo work. Is that correct?
There are only so many solutions to that intersection given the grade, and I think we can keep the communication open and we can minimize any part of that would have to be rebuilt.
I'm not sure why they don't want to take part in this process. It looks like to me that if they have a plan in effect and they came to you and told you, that would make our job much easier. But I don't have a clue what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, and I have a real difficult time making a decision on partial information, and that's kind of where I feel we are as a board. And I don't know that I hate to see that, because that's not the decision I want to make. I want to see that road improve, but it's really difficult for me because I think it's a key play.
Well, I know the last time the commission questioned, did Golden View Drive alone do enough to solve the problem? Well, it does solve part of the problem. Does doing nothing at all solve the problem? Probably not.
Thank you.
Sharon Ferguson, also known as Lucinda Mahoney. Yes. You're in the queue.
Oh, I thought I withdrew it. I don't
All right.
have anything. Oh, well, I do have a question.
All right.
Were you all able to bring up that case on Granicus? Okay. So I guess the question is, what do you want to do tonight?
I think we're committed to another work session. We've made that plan and changed in the schedule. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to suggest, I found the exchange that Commissioner Parks was having with the petitioner very helpful, and frankly, I think with the information in front of us, I don't see why we can't just handle it on the agenda and why we need a work session. I would rather we keep the Chugach plan on the work session and keep that moving forward. I don't think this session warrants a specific work session, though Commissioner's questions should no doubt be answered during that process. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Phelps.
Yeah, I kind of agree, is that I'm not sure that a work session is necessary, but I do think the staff needs to line out the issues, and I think that the solution is really just a phasing solution. I would like to see if the staff could develop a phasing solution. That is, you can develop part of the project now and wait for other aspects of the project to occur at a later time when DOT has the information available. But that would be useful to see if staff can develop a proposal like that.
So are you asking, I'm confused, are you asking for us to move forward this evening, or are you asking for that
No, I'm
phase?
not asking to move forward this evening.
All right.
No.
Okay, thank you. All right. Are there any other comments? Ms. Dean, you were in the queue. Did you withdraw? All right, thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Mulcahy.
I get it with Grant. I can't hit that button with Granicus up.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we got, from the previous packet, we have the department recommendations provided, the 3 recommendations, and Commissioner Phelps just made an excellent recommendation. And I think, looking at the minutes, again, there were several amendments being discussed, and I think that, to act in this packet would be inappropriate. We need to get staff's feedback on the amendments we were considering and relook at the DOT and then get a new department recommendation I can find my old packet, I'm sure I got it, but I'd like to have a new staff recommendation before we take action.
All right, thank you very much. Well, under those circumstances, I would entertain a motion to postpone to a work session and to put it on the agenda for next week.
There's a motion on the floor already.
I'm not seeing a motion on the floor.
I recorded it. Well, I'm sorry, it's a computer issue. The mover was Bruce Phelps, and it was seconded by James Ferguson to postpone to next week.
Commissioner Mulcahy?
I'm ambivalent on the work session. We have to postpone until next week to act, but I can not determine for a work session.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Phelps, you were in the queue.
I guess I was going to say the same thing I said before, which is I don't see a need for a work session per se, but I do see the need for staff to further analyze this issue and give us recommendations back on phasing and comments back on the recommendations we might make.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Robinson, you were in the queue. Did you withdraw?
It must have been from before, yes, madam.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, I'm totally confused. What's the wish of the commission at this time? Are we having a work session or are we not?
Point of information.
Yes.
The motion on the table, is it just to postpone the case until next week?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to that motion? Seeing and hearing none, that motion is approved. Now, the question becomes for the commission, do you want to have a work session prior to? I can't really read it, so let's make a motion. Would someone make a motion and then we can vote? Commissioner Parks.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we do have a work session next week on this matter prior to our meeting.
All right, and it's seconded by Dana Pruse. Since there has been some discussion, did you want to have a comment, Commissioner Pruse? No? Yes? Were you? Okay.
You know, I'm not sure the words.
Huh?
You know, I'm not sure the words. Just real quickly, I think this is a very important intersection. I see it every day, and I guess maybe the reason why I brought the work session up initially was to have a dialogue, more of an informal, on solutions to some of the testimony we heard, without taking up a lot of the commission's time during the regular agenda, and more of a informal roundtable discussion. And I thought that would be more appropriate than having everybody waiting for us to get through this particular case. If we come up with maybe some quick solutions during a work session that would actually speed our process up for the rest of the evening.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other comments? All right, Commissioner Mulcahy. Would you please use your voting machines? Yes for a work session, no for no work session. All right. One, two. It passes. We will have a work session at 5:30. The Chugach State Park Access Plan has been postponed for a work session and also postponed on the agenda. And we would request, since we're meeting at 5:30, that staff provide us with a light meal. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I don't believe we've actually postponed the Chugach plan. I don't think that happened.
Okay, well, then we need to have a motion to do that. Thank you. May I have a motion to postpone the work session and the Chugach State Access Park Plan to the next available date? It has been moved by James Ferguson and seconded by Dana Pruse. Is there any objection to the motion?
Just next available meeting, is that?
Yes. All right. Seeing and hearing none, that agenda item has been approved. Thank you. All right. We are now moving on to E2, case 2012-111, Community Development Department, Municipality of Anchorage, amending the Code of Regulations, Planning Department fee increases. We've had a work session on this. There were some unresolved questions that were raised. What is the wish of the commission at this time? Commissioner Pruse.
Well, based on the testimony we had from the department and the questions our chairman asked, I'd sure like to see some of those answers from the director. I was hoping that the staff person could have answered those questions as far as the questions you asked, Connie. So that being said, I would probably like to postpone, at least hear the answers from the director, maybe even request that the director be here in case there's further discussion so that we can, move this on and get it behind us.
All right, thank you. Is that a motion? Yes. May I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Ferguson. Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing and hearing none, that motion is approved. Thank you. Erica, if you would please request the director's presence next week so we can address those issues. And if there was a memo prior to that time, that'd probably be really helpful. Thank you.
So for clarification, we're postponing until next week?
Yes. Yes. All right. Moving on to public hearings on case number 2012-116, the Municipality of Anchorage elements of the comprehensive plan, the Government Hill Neighborhood Plan, an element of the comprehensive plan under Anchorage Municipal Code covering the geographic area generally described as north of downtown and Ship Creek, south of Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson, east of Panic Arm, and includes most of the Port of Anchorage land and west of Reeds Boulevard. May we hear from the procedure by which the public may speak to the Commission at its meetings is, 1, after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the Chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. A, petitioners, including all of her representatives, 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc., 5 minutes. Sometimes people speak as part of a group, but without the appropriate authorization. So if you are part of a group, you need to clarify that you have the authority to speak on behalf of, for example, the community council. And C, individuals, 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the Commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the Commission. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Planning and Zoning Commission takes. Appeals must be filed with the clerk's office within 20 days after the Planning and Zoning Commission's final decision. Any individual may request written findings from any commission decision within 7 days. May we hear from the petitioner's representative, please? That is staff. I think the municipality. Well, it is, the petitioner is the Municipality of Anchorage. So, do we hear from staff first? Or it's kind of the same thing on this one, so, okay, we're good. All right, thanks.
What's that?
Did you hear,
Sorry, just 1 second. We're having issues with this laptop. I'll just start talking. I'll just begin. Thank you, Commissioners. Again, my name is Joni Wilm. I'm a planner with the Municipality of Anchorage Planning Department. I'm the project manager for the Government Hill Neighborhood Plan. That's the plan that you got in your packets prior to the September 10th work session that we had. And I know some of you weren't here for that for that work session, so we'll try to just do a brief review of what we went over last time. Oh, great. And Nori Winter with Winter & Company, they're our consultants, is here tonight, and he's going to be giving you a presentation. I'm just going to be going over some questions that we had from last time that you had, and just trying to address those really briefly. I just wanted to point out as well that we are trying really hard to work with all of the parties involved in this plan, as well as address your concerns. And we just got, Commissioner Robinson sent us about, let's see, I have the email here, 6 or 7 additional questions this morning to address. And if you have issues you'd like to address, it would be nice to get notice before the morning of the hearing, just so that we can be adequately addressing those. Also just wanted to thank all of the folks that have showed up tonight. We have members here from the community, Government Hill community, from the Port of Anchorage. We've been working with the port. We have members from the school district, Brian Singleton from Government Hill Elementary School, and a few other folks. Just also to mention, we've been working, like I said, with the port, with JBER, with the Transit Authority, with people from HDR, with AWU, with Alaska Railroad Corporation, members of the Community Calvary Baptist Church, other nonprofits such as the Florica Group. And so this has been a big effort, and we really appreciate the time that all of the folks that showed up here tonight are giving, and all of the folks who attended the public workshops. So thank you to them. We appreciate that. A couple of issues that you brought up last time. You wanted to see a better understanding of the current lot layout. We presented 3 design scenarios that are in the plan in Chapter 5. You wanted to see how the design scenarios overlay the current streets and parcels. Nori is going to present that to you in his presentation tonight, so you can see that a little bit more clearly. Also, you also requested a better visual of how the KAC project comes through the neighborhood, so you could visualize what was going on there. I've included at your stations a picture. This is from the 2008 mitigation document that Cabada put out. This is a it's a Photoshop imaging of how the bridge would bisect the neighborhood, and it shows the cut and cover tunnel. It shows coming from the north, and then, like I mentioned before, bisecting Sunset Park right at street level. So this is about as clear as we can show you right now. The design is 35%, and that's all we've got. So, sorry? Is this not working? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I could put that there. Well, it's kind of dark, but. So that's the visual. That's kind of the best that we've got right now. So until we get a chance to work with the selected design teams to figure out where the streets are going to come in and out, that's what we have. So, and then thirdly, lastly from me, you also requested a more descriptive phasing diagram, including an ideal first parcel and starting point to make things a little bit more manageable, and requested if we were to build one building only, what could it be, where would that be? So Nori is also going to highlight those in his presentation. We have the questions submitted by Commissioner Robinson this morning. We also have answers to those, and we would like to address those at the end of Nori's presentation, or if you prefer, we can just address those to you in a memo. So whatever you would like. All right. Thanks.
All right. So before you begin, I just want clarity that that was the staff report. Is that correct? And that was not the petitioner?
Carol Wong, the manager for the Long Range Planning Section. Joni is the project manager, and she just presented an overview of questions that were asked at the last work session. The staff report is in your packet. We can go into it in more detail, but we wanted to answer some of the questions that have been raised by the commission first.
Okay, so what I'm trying to determine is the petitioner I'm trying to determine the petitioner's representative who has 10 minutes.
So we're sharing that between Nora and myself.
I had no idea that that was what the situation was, so now I don't know what the appropriate protocol is here because we didn't turn the clock on. So for our purposes, I would consider this the staff report and not the petitioner's representative. So this is the staff report. So now, do any of the commissioners have questions from staff at this time, which might be a reasonable time to review the questions that you had, Commissioner Robinson?
If you wouldn't mind, given the way this is sort of structured, I'd like to wait until after the
All right.
presentation from the consultant.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Ferguson.
I have two questions, general in nature. We have a historical properties plan also being developed and coming before the commission. Have you looked at the historical properties plan to see if there's any conflicts between your plan and that plan, or between that plan and your plan?
We have been working with the Historical Preservation Plan consultant team since day one. We have integrated their plan into our document. There may be a few outstanding discrepancies that we have been made aware of and will probably fix. Those have to do with the historic district boundaries, just some different mapping issues, but yes, we are working with them.
Okay, now this is a tough one. We have multiple plans, we have comprehensive plans. Does this have any conflicts with the comprehensive plan that you are aware of?
Which, the Government Hill Neighborhood Plan or the Historic Preservation Plan?
You're speaking on Government Hill tonight.
The Government Hill Neighborhood Plan will be an element of the comprehensive plan. It is a reflection of the policies that are highlighted in the comprehensive plan. So we tried to stay as close to that document as we could. Of course, this plan gets much more neighborhood specific. So does that answer your question?
Sort of. Question continues. Are you aware of any conflicts between this plan and what is currently being discussed on Title 21?
As far as the mixed-use district?
Anything?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not privy to all of the Title 21 changes that have been made. I haven't had time to attend all of those meetings, so it's a little hard to keep up with everything that keeps changing on those. I have been called in to help out occasionally with graphics and things. I do know that the mixed-use districts are not going to be a part of that plan. That would probably have affected this plan, but it doesn't really, it won't really change our scenario layout or...
Because clarity is extremely important to me, because at some point in time, some designer is going to try to build everything. What would be the impact if we were to ultimately table this until after Title 21 is set in stone to try to minimize the conflict between all the documents?
Well, we're under a very tight deadline to get this. We have to get this through the Assembly by December 2012. We have signed a memorandum of understanding with Federal Highways Administration and SHPO and Cabada that states that this will be at least presented to the Assembly by December of 2012. I'm not sure if we weren't able to meet that deadline, if we would somehow be asked to give the funding back. I'm not sure what would happen exactly, but we are under contract to be done by 2012.
We're here to try to bring clarity to all that is my issue, and I understand and sincerely appreciate that you don't know Title 21, because I don't think any of us in the room do. And so I understand that. but I see a problem that I'm trying to get some organization to do.
Are there specific elements of Title 21 that you see conflicts arising?
No, are there specific elements of your plan that conflict with Title 21?
Maybe Nora can speak to that.
That would be fine. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Robinson.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Madam Chair, that a lot of my questions that I raised today, and they, frankly, they're not really new questions, but they're really just designed to add clarity on how a basic plan, an element of the comprehensive plan gets implemented, and what elements of that may require code changes and what elements then are not actually implemented until there are code changes. So I think those were, I think the nature of those questions, we probably have a number of those to go down here, whether it's this evening or the next time, but hopefully that'll add some clarity.
Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. Commissioner Phelps, you were in the queue. Did you? Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Now we're going to hear from the petitioner's representative. That's you. Would you please come forward?
Thank you.
All right. You have 10 minutes, and you may save some time for rebuttal. So let us know what you'd like for rebuttal, please.
Okay, thank you, and good evening. My name is Norrie Winter. I'm president of Winter & Company, and we are the lead consultants. We've had a wonderful team working with us on this project, Kittleson Associates, Architects Alaska, and Brooks, and Urban Advisors, economics consultants, along with all the people that Joni referred to earlier. The main part of the plan, I'm not going to give a presentation on this evening because I know that you've already heard and seen a lot of that. So my presentation is brief, mainly focusing on the questions that you raised last time, which I appreciate. They are very good about clarification. And the commissioners have raised one of the things that we struggled with on this project, and that is planning with a lot of uncertainty. So many moving pieces. Title 21, KAC, things that normally planners would like to have a little bit more solidity in terms of working on. Therefore, the implementation section is a bit loose in terms of some of those. It leaves open-ended whether or not there would need to be regulatory amendments because we frankly didn't know what was going to happen with Title 21. We tried to set forth an image for land use, understanding that if the plan is adopted as policy, then such regulations could be amended. We have worked throughout to watch carefully with the comprehensive plan, the Anchorage Bowl plan, and we have quoted it in many pages in the document. So we, in that sense, believe to our best ability that it is consistent with that in terms of promoting more compact development, reducing commuting stress, adding to the economic vitality of the core of the city and some of those other variables. The points that were raised before, we just wanted to reiterate that this is, in fact, an extension of the Anchorage Bowl Plan, and therefore it is a policy document. It's not a regulatory one, and that it is also part of the four-part package of the Memorandum of Understanding developed for the KAC project. So in that respect, it has been developed in concert with the preservation plan and with the other parts of that project as well. We see the plan as helping to guide investment, both public and private sector investment in the area, and to help illustrate the goals and vision for the community. And one of the things that came out of the work sessions was an incredible commitment to this neighborhood and an incredible commitment to having a vital center for it. And also then it can provide a base for the neighborhood to seek assistance, whether that's grants and other kinds of assistance that would help to implement portions of it, and to help give direction to subsequent regulatory changes that may be needed. Again, whether or not there is a zoning category coming out of Title 21 that fits the vision or whether a special overlay might be needed is something yet to be clarified. We also see that it's a model for other neighborhood plans. This is the first one in terms of the process that it has used in engaging the community and in some of the basic elements that are covered, but also the way in which we did have to respond to some very unique circumstances here. The fact that this is the oldest neighborhood of the city, and it's an important part of Anchorage's history. the fact that it is a small neighborhood but flanked by very important and major players, the Port, J-Bear, Alascom, and that it is one of the most compact, walkable communities already in the city, which is consistent with the goals set forth in the Anchorage Bowl plan, and very close to downtown. And in that respect, the plan is different from looking at a development plan where it's understandable you would want a lot of specificity that just isn't necessarily available in this circumstance. The general concept of the center itself, which was the focus of the phasing studies, was to provide a mix of uses to make it a very vibrant place, to make it as efficient use of land, which is also an Anchorage Bowl plan objective, and to increase density moderately to the extent that it can happen. The plan also seeks to benefit all of the stakeholders. We heard from those individual key players of interests and areas of activity that they were thinking about that the plan could help. J-Bear in terms of improving access at its security gate and perhaps providing some ancillary housing for special needs that would relate to their functions. Providing safer edges, keeping a healthy, safe neighborhood, because security and homeland security is an issue up in this neighborhood that not every other neighborhood may deal with quite so directly, and to serve the employers who told us, the Port and others, that they do make use of the amenities that are on the Hill, and then also to serve other residents throughout the area. The key concept dealing with uncertainty with the KAC project was the lands targeted for the cut and cover are basically in limbo, and in some cases may be under acquisition. But until that project is definitive and real, it's very difficult to recommend improvements on that area or immediately adjacent to it. And that was something we really had to struggle with. But what was interesting was in the workshops, the community created a neighborhood center that actually shifted away from that, recognizing that that edge was a viable use for parking and public spaces, etc., but that it would, that the vision for the center shifted, and that was the big aha moment for this plan. This is an approximation of where the cover is on a map that shows existing property ownership. Now, this is my PowerPoint circle, so it is not a construction document by any means, but it's based on the information we have, and it shows you approximately where that is. And if you wanted to draw a circle around what the current concentration of activity is, this green one represents what we would call the neighborhood center right now, and it overlaps that area. What came out of the workshops was the idea of shifting that focus a little bit to the north and east, freeing the edges from waiting to know what's going to happen with KAC. And with that idea, we had the ability to start development as we can pull the pieces together and as the market supports it on lands that are not directly impacted, and therefore we can start creating replacement square footage for businesses that may want to relocate, as well as moderately increasing density. That requires some work. We illustrated that in three alternatives that are in the plan. Some are more ambitious than others. They focus on creating a neighborhood center, a downtown sense, and also improving intersections and pedestrian crossing safety. Some are more ambitious than others, require more engagement and acquisition, and certainly some require more knowing about what's happening with KAC. Scenario
Excuse me,
2 is the simplest one.
I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt you to let you know that you have approximately 3 minutes left, and wondering if you want to save some of that time for rebuttal.
I think I'll use it all right now, if I may. Thank you.
All right.
I just want to show those, what we've done is taken the very first phase of scenario 2 in response to your question to illustrate how it may be phased. And so starting with the existing condition, the proposed first building would occur at this corner, and this requires 2 parcels to be in play. But the idea is to create a signature building at what is essentially the entry gateway to the neighborhood center. And that would be what we're now calling phase 1A. And then I'm going to show you subsequently a second building would occur. Well, this is just a little illustrative of that. But the second building would occur here on that same collection of parcels with a reconfiguration of a parking lot behind that could also serve for farmers markets and other kinds of community events, so that early on there would be public benefit as well as commercial development. And then finally, on a third parcel, this one requires cooperation with J-Bear to reconfigure the intersection to improve safety and crossing there. And that also provides a little bit more land for a more functional parcel at the corner. And that shows you how we've figured out that would be phased. Now, each of the other scenarios, we gave that kind of consideration, but did not provide that level of documentation in the draft. And I do appreciate your questions. I think they were very good ones in terms of clarifying those issues. But we think they are feasible. It will take a lot of work, obviously, to do it, but it is doable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the petitioner's representative? Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I think, you started out by saying one of the moving targets is the zoning code itself. Obviously, the zoning code always changes, and there are different parts of town where it may change also depending on the sub-area plans and so forth. I guess acknowledging that and acknowledging that you don't know where Title 21 is, if there's going to be an applicable zoning district, for example, that would help you implement this plan, is there a way in the plan to at least indicate that certain actions, certain recommendations would require zoning changes or changes to the zoning code prior to them being actually implemented? And the reason I say there, and I'm not sure what your experience is in other communities, but it's a rather fun subject to debate back and forth on what guides, whether it's a general plan or the zoning code itself. And I think with that, because this plan gets into some specifics of design guidelines, site planning, open space requirements, all of those things, I think this commission and others just want to simply know, if you have an application that goes forward, this plan is adopted, but nothing in the code specifically says you need these things, which one would guide? And I think point is could the plan just clarify that when it comes to design, those design changes, those actually require a change in code in order for implementation to take place?
I think I maybe even hear two subparts to that question. One is there a zoning category that would permit the combination of uses that are envisioned in the neighborhood center? And we don't know that answer just yet. And as to whether or not, if it does not appear in Title 21 as it becomes adopted, then what is the option? And we could outline that because it probably would be an overlay. The other is related specifically to the design guidelines that are inserted into the plan. And you're correct. Right now, those would be policy. They would not be regulatory. And anyone who comes in tomorrow applying under the existing zoning regulations would work with those regulations. In the interim, anyone asking for assistance or any special conditional approvals, it is possible that those could be considered by this body as conditions for those kinds of approvals. Or if incentives were to be made available, then those design guidelines could be made a condition of those incentives. Absent those conditions, they would be simply advisory until there was some mechanism to attach them to the zoning code or some other regulatory mechanism.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ferguson.
In the packet we got on page 13, item number 39, if I am reading this right, Cabada says the community hall will not be part of the lid construction. That's a statement. The answer is that has not been determined. No action recommended. Do we have an understanding with Cabada, or it sounds to me like both sides are sitting there just saying, it's my way or the highway?
I think staff will be in a better position to answer that.
So the reason that says that has not been determined is because the design team for the cut and cover tunnel has not been selected. We have not had an opportunity to meet with any of those folks. We've met with Kabata several times, and their stance is that the plan itself, this document, is the mitigation for the tunnel. And our stance is that this plan is a tool to help them mitigate the tunnel. So we are in the process of working that out with Kabata, but it has not been determined what's going on top of the lid. The community has not chosen a scenario, and so that's to be determined, and we can't say that there will be or there won't be anything on top of the lid right now.
I mean, it just, to me, it shows the issue clearly, is the reason I brought that one up. I don't know if I'm in agreement with your answer, but I understand what you said. Page 16, item 61, and it says, these explanations will be included in the final plan document to be presented to the Anchorage Assembly. Now, I thought we were approving a document to go to the Assembly. That note sort of kind of says, well, we're not done yet, but we're going to go to the Assembly. I mean,
I'm sorry, can you clarify where exactly I don't have that in front of me, so is that in response to a comment?
that was page 16 of the staff packet, or the packet we got tonight.
Okay.
Item 61, the specific question, what will the H2 project do? And
this plan needs to describe. This is I'm sorry, go ahead.
you understand my question?
Yeah, let me clarify. This is a comment from our AMAT section. So they are wanting clarification on the highway-to-highway project, and they just wanted that brought out in the plan more. So they wanted the plan to discuss how that project will work with this plan.
So this plan is not finished?
The plan has to incorporate all of these comments or your recommendations, as well as assembly recommendations before it will be finished. It won't be finished until after it gets approved by the assembly, and all recommendations that are approved by Planning and Zoning Commission or by the assembly are said to go in or out of the plan. At that point, we can make final changes to the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? All right, so it looks like there are several people here in the audience who would like to give public testimony. So would you please come forward? May we have the first person to come forward? Please clearly state your name for the record, and if you represent a group or yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bob French, and I am presently the chair of the Government Hill Community Council, and I believe I'm speaking for the council. Hopefully you have in your packet a copy of the letter of support that the Government Hill Community Council provided for the Planning and Zoning Commissioners. We believe that this is an important document that will do a lot to further the potential development in our neighborhood. And we think that there is really quite a bit of importance to having something as clear as this guidance document. We understand that, there are, as Mr. Winter said, there's a lot of details that still need to be worked out as far as what's happening with Kabata, what's happening with the bridge, what's happening with Title 21, and also other factors that are going on in the neighborhood. But we, as a neighborhood plan, as a guidance document, we do feel that it's been a very worthwhile exercise, and we're very interested in making sure that this is not just a plan that sits on a shelf somewhere. We want to see that this is able to be implemented and that we're able to move forward. We've got some of the older, as we found out, the little strip mall that they're looking at tearing down there is actually is the original strip mall on the West Coast. They didn't have anything like that anywhere else. We've got a lot of these things. We've got the original grocery store for all of Anchorage was in our neighborhood. These kind of things, we want to be able to both reflect that history as well as moving forward and saying, maybe it is time to replace that old original strip mall with something that's actually functional. And seeing how the possibilities of some increased growth here, I think, is something that's very interesting for our neighborhood. I think one of the things that we want to see in here is it really has two parts. One is going to be we would like to see this plan move forward regardless of whether or not Cabada builds their bridge. I think the important part also on this is that we would like to make it very clear that we don't regard the cut and cover tunnel that Cabada is building as just the only mitigation that they're doing. We don't want to see this plan as the only mitigation that they're doing. Cabada is going to, if it happens, is going to have a huge effect on our neighborhood. We're going to see all of the businesses in that central business core wiped out during a 3-year or so process that it would take to dig that cut and cover tunnel and to redo everything. We're tremendously interested in what that construction process is going to do to our school. It's not just a neighborhood school, but it's a magnet school that serves the entire Anchorage community. We're concerned about a lot of these effects, and we want to make sure that if the bridge is built, that Government Hill actually gets some real mitigation and some real money to help implement some of this. So those are some parts that I'm not sure that they are all that well articulated in the plan right now, but we want to make sure that the effects of the bridge, if it does happen to our neighborhood, are well compensated. I'd be glad to have field any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Commissioner Robinson has a question.
Thank you. Through the chair, you mentioned that you would not like this plan, once adopted, to sit on a shelf, and you'd like to see it implemented and things move forward and actual change happen in Government Hill. That said, some of the scenarios are pretty, there's a lot of vision in those scenarios. There's no doubt a lot of investment that would be required to make those happen by both private and public entities. I guess my basic question is, do you feel like the amount of potential investment called for in this plan is appropriate for the municipality, given the size of the community and the other needs and the other planning efforts that we've identified as a community? In other words, how do you make sure that what is the appropriate amount of investment in Government Hill relative to the population, the need, the community size, and how do we balance that with the other needs that we've expressed as a municipality?
Through the chair, I think it's interesting that Government Hill actually started our own neighborhood plan in about 2006 or something like that. And this was a plan that we started on because we saw the need for that. And we worked with some of the local architects here in town, and we're working towards that. And we really figured out that we didn't have the money to even be able to push forward and create a neighborhood plan, although we wanted to do that. I think as far as the level of investment necessary for that, I think it's interesting to see that even right now, Cabada, in their taking of property on Government Hill, is removing property off of the tax accounts for the city. We're seeing, the taking of land. We're seeing those tax revenues go away, and we're also seeing that what we're talking about here, in a lot of ways, I think, if you look at the implementation parts of this plan, they're talking about things like, tax incentives or some, perhaps some changing of some of the in a district overlay or something like that, where there's slightly different conditions that would happen for the Government Hill area as would be in some other areas of town. I think it's a matter of scale and some encouragement that could happen to make development like this happen rather than having a full scale, the muni just comes out and pays for it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions in the queue, so thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Will the next person who wishes to testify please come forward?
Good evening. My name is Suzanne DiPietro, and I live in Government Hill. I've been active in the Community Council for many years, although I'm not speaking on behalf of the Community Council. I'm speaking for myself as a private citizen. And I just wanted to really encourage you to look positively upon this plan. Government Hill has been engaged with our industrial neighbors. A little bit in answer to your concern. It's not just Government Hill and the residents of Government Hill. It's the port, it's J-Bear, it's the Alaska Railroad. An incredible amount of property in our neighborhood is owned by the Alaska Railroad. We're talking about important industrial and economic engines in this community, and we're talking about keeping them vital and also about, frankly, homeland security, the idea that a vital, inhabited, vibrant neighborhood on the edges of these important security these important lands that have security risks associated with them are kind of like a warning. In other words, what's the most important thing that you want to see when you go out of town and leave your house vacant? You want to see that your neighbors are home, to notice stuff. We're the people who notice stuff about what goes on around the edges of those organizations, and so we very much consider ourselves part of that whole industrial complex. We've been working really carefully with our neighbors on this plan. We've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I guess the only other thing I wanted to say is Government Hill has been struggling for a long time to maintain our viability, and this plan is an opportunity to make a positive statement of what we would like to see. Is it regulatory? No. It's a policy document, it's a vision, it's a statement to put out there. This is how we would like to develop. And we don't think for a minute that somebody else is going to come and implement this plan for us. You got to be kidding me. Implementing this plan is going to be up to as everything that we've ever done at Government Hill has been up to us, to our advocacy, to our positive statements, to our energy. And that's the way we're viewing it. We're totally committed to this. And it is doable. Is it doable in a year? No, maybe not. But when we have a plan, we've got our policy set out, all the entities in the city are on notice of what we'd like to see, so maybe we can start to attract the kind of development that we want to see, and then people who want to do development that's inconsistent with the plan can sort of self-select out of our neighborhood. This is a great way to avoid those kinds of conflicts that we've had a lot in the past, where we've had types of development that have been coming in that the neighborhood's objected to as being damaging to the neighborhood, and the developers come in and say, well, how did we know? We're just trying to do business. This is the plan where we say, this is what we'd like to see. So we encourage people who come in who are consistent with this plan, who want to do that kind of work, and discourage people to go to a more appropriate place who want to do development that's not consistent. So I would really encourage you to look favorably upon the plan. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I don't see any questions, so thank you. May we have the next person please come forward?
Good evening. My name is Erin Hardy, and I'm here on behalf of the Anchorage Community Land Trust. We're doing work over in the Mountain View neighborhood. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We just want to express our support for the Government Hill neighborhood plan, as we have been inspired by this neighborhood plan to partner with the Mountain View Community Council in creating the Mountain View neighborhood plan. We're very thankful for the support the ACLT and the Mountain View Community Council has received from the planning department in regard to the neighborhood planning efforts, and we support all opportunities for residents, landowners, and businesses to express their voice in regard to their neighborhoods. With that, we encourage the Planning and Zoning Commission to support neighborhood planning efforts here and in the future. Thank you.
Just one moment. We do have a question from Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, through the chair. Aaron, no doubt in this plan there's a lot called out that would require an organization like yours to come in and acquire property in order to make that change, whether that's purchasing deteriorated properties or aggregating parcels for larger, different development. Just out of curiosity, is ACLT firmly rooted in Mountain View only, or does the mission of the organization carry outside of that particular neighborhood?
As of right now, we are firmly rooted in the Mountain View neighborhood.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions.
Thank you.
Would the next person please come forward?
Hello, my name is Stephanie Kessler, and I'm a member of the Government Hill Community Council. I just wanted to speak in support of this neighborhood plan. We've worked extremely hard on this plan for the past year. The municipality and Winter and Associates have provided extremely strong project leadership on this plan, and the community as a whole has enthusiastically participated, and just not the residents, but also, as Suzanne mentioned, our industrial neighbors such as the Port and J-Bear and the railroad. They've all been very enthusiastic supporters of this and are excited by the vision that this plan has to offer. One of Commissioner Robinson's questions was regarding how do we make this plan happen? It looks like it's going to cost a lot of money. When the Community Council and the community and the neighborhood sat down to review the initial draft of this plan, that was our very first question. We looked at this plan and we went, well, holy cow, this is pretty awesome, but how are we going to make this happen? We've had attempts at plans in the past, and they've been unable to execute. They've sat on the shelf. But in this particular case, we have a broad base, we have a vision and a broad base, or a plan for a broad-based investment support that includes not just municipal funding, but grants, attracting developers and investors who also share our vision. And as a part of the planning process, we've already started fielding inquiries about, well, Government Hill is doing this plan. What is the vision? What are the kinds of things that are going to be happening up there? The other thing I wanted to emphasize was that this plan contains two broad forks, one for if the Knik Arm Crossing is built and one for if the Knik Arm Crossing is not built. That was a very strong guideline as a part of the planning process. Was we didn't want to make this, well, if this is the Knik Arm Crossings plan, this is going to, this will only be if the crossing goes through. But we also wanted it to have some basis in reality that if the plan did go through, we wanted to be prepared for it, but we also wanted to be prepared for our future if the bridge does not go through. So any questions or anything?
I don't see anyone in the queue for questions. Thank you very much for your testimony. Would the next person please come forward?
Hi, my name is Melinda Gant. I'm a resident of the Government Hill, and I'm an at-large board member of the Government Hill Community Council. I want to express my support of the Government Hill Neighborhood Plan and request the Commission to recommend approval to the Anchorage Assembly. I was involved in the planning meetings for the last year and participated with the Government Hill business partners as well in reviewing the neighborhood plan. The neighborhood plan managed by Joni of the Planning Department was well orchestrated, and a format of open communication created a strong community effort from not only the residents but business partners as well. And as everyone is listed, the business partners included J-Bear, the Alaska Railroad, the Port, the strip mall resident or business partners. I went along and talked with them all, and they were very excited about the business plan as well, even though they weren't able to attend the meetings. Kind of filled them in every time we had a work session. The other thing is, going through the process, I realized that the needs we have now as a community
were getting addressed. Small things. I mean, I know there was a concern about economics and how much money could be fed into Government Hill, but part of the planning was the small things that we could do now and then the big picture. And some of the small things that we were able to discuss and get on through this neighborhood plan was maybe the school access. We needed to improve that. We identified there's some safety concerns with the children walking from east to west into the Government Hill, and the traffic. The traffic has always been a big concern of getting in and out, and how the municipality could improve some of the places of the detail shop that were torn apart, and improving that road access. So those are the things that could be done today. And we're getting that in a plan and taking some baby steps in how we can do some things now and how we can do things in the future. And then I think there was another thing that was mentioned about the economic base. Making this plan, I think, will encourage the economic development of Government Hill. Some important things that are already happening is that there's some property tax potential increases with the development of North Point Bluff, with a single family ownership of the property. The concerns of the residents do have is that property taxes are being eliminated or decreased down due to the Cabada's purchasing of property. The Sourdough Hotel, the 2 homes are off now tax exempt from the municipality for some reason. And so there's always those concerns is that we want our property tax base to increase so that we can continue investing into our future. So is there any questions?
I don't see any questions in the queue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Would the next person please come forward? Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Anyone else at all? All right, seeing and hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. What is the wish of the commission? Discussion? Commissioner Robinson, you've had a lot to say today about this plan.
Is that a compliment, Madam Chair?
It is. We all like active commission members. Thank you.
Well, I guess I would start off by saying, you know, when you have a document that's this large, and I was accused of getting some things last minute, albeit I'm looking, Joni, it was at 9:20 this morning, so you had it first thing in the morning. But the point is, I think it's very difficult to pass a plan like this, you know, right away. I think I still have some outstanding questions. I think that the basis of my questions as the former long-range planning manager of Anchorage is not so much that we shouldn't have strong visions and really lay out a plan for the future. But rather, I think more often than not, we've been disappointed in this community by laying out plans that have been either, lacked the muscle, I guess, behind them to implement them. It's created some expectations in the community that have I think, made things difficult in general for the planning process. And I'm encouraged that that there's a lot of support and interest in this particular plan. I think it's our role and our recommendation to the Assembly, though, that we're recommending a document that has an opportunity to be successful for the community, successful for dealing with what potentially is a very massive project running right through our oldest neighborhood. And I don't take that lightly. That's a major deal, with or without Cabada, but certainly with that we as a municipality have to reconcile and hopefully learn from mistakes that were made years ago in this country. Virtually every major city in the country that had a highway driven right through its residential base. So with that, I don't know that I'm prepared to make a motion to adopt the plan this evening. I know that there were some other concerns voiced, I would welcome an opportunity to sit down and work through some of those concerns with staff and consultants in a committee, if that's the will of the body, and at least work through some of the more difficult issues, and hopefully bring it back in short order, given that there's a time constraint vis-a-vis the funder of this plan.
All right, thank you very much. Before we entertain that as a motion, let's hear from a couple of other commissioners. Commissioner Ferguson.
My concern with this document, one, is the order of precedence with this Anchorage 2020. And that argument, unfortunately, is beyond Government Hill, is where it's taking place. And the good news is you're first in line. The bad news is you're first in line on that issue. And I, for one, wish we could get that resolved and behind us, because it's a huge stumbling block as we go forward. But I am concerned with that. I like the comments that this plan has led to some small steps, and the marching forward on the small steps. I like that. I like that a lot. But this plan has some huge steps with some huge dollar signs, and I can't get over that hurdle. That bothers me greatly, that the expectations of the community exceed the pocketbook that I see out there, and that is a concern to me. I appreciate that the community has attempted to deal with the gorilla called Kabata. I mean, you guys have done a good job of taking that to task and trying to resolve that, and that I support with. But my concern is, first of all, the order of precedent, and second of all, the dollars and cents attached to this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ferguson. Commissioner Phelps.
I guess I, too, am concerned about the scope of the recommendations, and I have the same issue, which is it's a visionary plan, very many major recommendations. I'm concerned about setting expectations that are not going to be fulfilled. We've had lots of plans over the years, and if they're not matched to implementation, they don't really work out too well. And I guess that's my underlying concern, is that I think that the recommendations may be fine in terms of, how the community wants the area to grow. But what I'm concerned about is the feasibility of that, the implementation of that, the tools that are going to be used. And frankly, one of the major tools is Title 21. And we don't have that yet, okay? And it's a huge problem right now. And one of the particular aspects I'm concerned about is the design recommendations in this plan, and whether or not those design recommendations are going to be used in terms of, I would say, augmenting or changing the Anchorage Municipal Code. The way that it is currently worded in the document that I have seen, prepared by the municipal attorney, is that, in fact, the comprehensive plan adopted subsequent to this will, in fact, trump the AMC. And so I'm very concerned about those recommendations that relate to design inside this document. And so I would want to see a caveat recommendation in the plan that indicates forcefully that the design components are meant to be advisory in nature. They're meant to provide guidance to design principles, but they're not intended to be necessarily changes to code unless you are actually recommending changes to code.
Thank you very much. I think we've all shared the concerns that have been expressed by you and Commissioner Ferguson and Commissioner Robinson. What is the wish of the Commission at this time? It would seem reasonable at this particular point in time to entertain a motion for postponement for at least 30 days, and then perhaps allow Commissioner Robinson and Commissioner Phelps and Commissioner Ferguson to pursue this issue. Commissioner Robinson?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think staff has indicated on, several occasions, a deadline, and I haven't pushed back and said, why is it that Kabata gets the ultimate say in the deadline? But that said, I want to be respectful that there is a need. I think the community has felt like they've worked long enough, and they'd like to see some positive traction. But I think before we put it off too far in the distance, if I could have either Ms. Wilm or Ms. Wong comment on, the latest at which you'd like to see a resolution passed from this to move on to the Assembly. What would be the meeting, given that there are two currently scheduled in November?
We anticipated that possibly you would need more time, and so that's why we do have a time saved in the November meetings for you to look at the issues and to deliberate on this plan. So between now and then, if we can have a session with yourself and other members that are interested to talk through some of the issues that have been raised tonight, we would welcome that.
All right, very good. Thank you. Commissioner Phelps.
Yeah, I just kind of following up on this is that I don't want to postpone this inordinately as well, too. But there's a bunch of issues here, and I would like to have at least the opportunity to work with the staff and the applicant to work through some of the issues, and perhaps other commission members would be interested in that as well, too. And I'd be willing to do that the next 2 or 3 weeks during the day or in the evening or whatever.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your volunteering to do that. So we have volunteers from Commissioner Phelps and Commissioner Robinson. All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that, and we look forward to your report addressing the issues that have been raised tonight. I need a motion for a postponement. Commissioner Parks.
Madam Chair, in the matter of 2012116, I make a motion that we postpone it until a date certain so that the members of this board or commission can have an opportunity to review with staff some of their concerns.
All right, that motion's been seconded by Commissioner Robinson. Is there any objection? Seeing and hearing none, that motion is approved. I would just like to make a comment that we hear a lot of public testimony from various communities and various members of the communities, and this testimony tonight from the public was some of the most articulate and literate that we've had. So thank you very much for your testimony tonight. Thank you. All right, moving on. Before you all put your packets away, we have several things that we need to discuss. First of all, Carol has reminded me that Jerry is out of town, out of the office next week, so we will get answers to your questions via memo this week regarding the fees. I will take it upon myself to send a memo to Jerry and engage in some correspondence with him regarding the issues of the fees so that we can perhaps have some clarity on it and address it next week. Commissioner Ferguson has asked to address us regarding the Title 21 matter. Commissioner Ferguson.
The Assembly work sessions on Title 21 are 9:30 to 12:30 on Thursday mornings. Sally and I and Connie have been attending fairly regularly. Ray was there last meeting. We got a little bit surprised after Ray left. Dennis Weaver, the city attorney, came in and wanted to know our position on the order of precedent argument. And I expressed my displeasure not having some prior warning on that. I could use some support at those meetings. It's not going well, in my opinion, and I'm constantly asked to try to explain why we made the amendments we made. And if I made the amendment, I think I can do an adequate job, but if somebody else made an amendment, I may not know your entire reasons, I may not remember it. And so if you have time, I have been trying to distribute the information that I get ahead of the meeting so that you know what's going to be talked about, but I could use some support on that. And I am very, very much concerned on this order of precedence because, in my opinion, at some point in time, somebody's going to try to design something and someone's going to try to build something, and they should know for certainty what it is, and they should not have to go check the Government Hill Plan for this language and this plan for that language. I mean, we've tried to keep Title 21 clean, but we have not prevailed at that point yet.
All right, and Commissioner Ferguson, thank you for your attendance at those meetings. It's greatly appreciated. And Commissioner Phelps?
I need a clarification. When you say order of precedence, you mean the order of precedence between AMC, the Anchorage Municipal Code, and the Comprehensive Plan?
Yes, and I mean, the question on 25-foot stream setbacks versus 50-foot stream setbacks, I thought it was decided at 25-foot. Now we find out that the hillside plan has 50-foot, and so now does that take precedent in the hillside? How many people knew of that? I mean, it's just the clarity and certainty which we worked so hard over is being eroded away.
You know, I think one part of the problem is I was involved in very specific aspects, and I was there for those discussions, and my observation is they went fairly well. Maybe that's not the case now, but if I, for example, work on a part of the AMC that's coming up, I will attempt to attend. But frankly, you know, there are parts of the AMC that you guys are more familiar with than I, so I really haven't attended that part of it. But if there's something like on the issue of the comprehensive plan and the hierarchy aspects of it, I definitely want to be there.
Bruce, if I had known it was coming, I would have sent an engraved invitation.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there, and then suddenly up it pops. I objected. He's there. They went ahead and discussed it. Sally did a very credible job, but that's the reason why I asked to bring it up.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner Hickel?
What answer did you give Wheeler? And if you didn't give an answer, can we come up with one tonight?
I don't know if tonight's appropriate. I would be more than happy. The issue is very much still in play. The Assembly can't figure it out. I would rather have us figure it out and give it to them.
Did you state any particular position, like what your feelings were toward
Title 21 was paramount to all the others. But that was trumped when they point out the fact that the city charter speaks to Anchorage 20 or the comprehensive plan.
Well, I mean, there is primacy on the comprehensive plan. The courts have expressed that, and that's what the attorney is expressing. We're not arguing about the primacy of the plan. We're arguing about a division of responsibility or authority between the plan and the AMC. And the AMC that's developed is going to be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
That's why we need your help.
Pardon me?
That's why we need your help.
Yeah, well, if I know it's going to be on the agenda, I'll be there.
So perhaps what we could do is I'll talk to Debbie and see what the plan is for the ongoing discussion and dialogue, and if we can get a schedule for that, and perhaps even bring in some other legal minds that might have an opinion as well.
I was going to ask that. I had mentioned to Sally before the meeting about it seemed that there is a section in the Chapter 2, I believe it was, that actually had most of our recommendations in there, and those were recommendations from staff, and that was to be inserted inside of the code. Why don't we simply reference that? Was there a discussion about that?
That took place in the meeting that none of us were aware of and none of us attended. You know, early on there was one meeting we missed.
Before we knew that they were actually meeting, or when they were meeting, I have made a recommendation to Debbie that, you know, I thought it was appropriate that Dennis Wheeler, Sally Kuskos, who represents planning and zoning, and Don McClintock, who, you know, represents many private and developers. I think we need more than one legal mind to address this issue and get some definition to it. But so far, that request has not been accepted. But I thought that
I'd like to see that, because if we can't resolve it, the state Supreme Court will resolve it for us at some point in time, because we'll get sued over it, and if we could bring some legal minds together to solve it before all that happens, that would save everybody a lot of time, trouble, and heartache. So, Commissioner Hickel?
So is there no need for the commission to come up with a direction as far as what a position would be, or is that already known?
I think our position has been really clearly stated in the work that we have done. Now it's a question of getting the assembly members, or enough of the assembly members, to accept that work as the appropriate position for them to be taking.
Well, that was my point. If it was that clear, why would they ask the question?
They're trying to come up with, we're advisory only, they're trying to come up with their own philosophy, for lack of a better word, regarding this matter. Bruce?
I talked to Debbie about this, and one of the things that she was expressing to me is that she's concerned about the fact that the attorney's office would not support other aspects of the code revision if they did not kind of give in on this particular aspect. So there's that politics going on as well too.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's like she's trying to she wants to get the code through, and she needs to have the support of the attorney's office to do that, but she's concerned about alienation of the attorney's office. And I can understand that aspect of it, but the reality is that this is important to the community, and it's just not that complicated. I mean, we're making it exceedingly complicated, and it doesn't have to be that way. But, we've got, I shouldn't say this way, but we have a bunch of attorneys involved, and so it's not going to be easy.
Well, I think it's only attorneys that can convince Dennis Wheeler to modify his position. I don't think, no matter how much we say or do, we don't have the sheepskin, so I don't think it's going to make any difference, which is why I had my recommendation. Tyler, do you have any words of wisdom on this issue?
No, I mean, I think I was encouraged by some of the language that was being recommended by Bruce, and I was I too agree that it shouldn't be that difficult. Again, we're going to see it here, and every time one of these things comes up, it's going to come up. So we both need the language in the code, but we also need to sort of come to an understanding ourselves on how this actually gets, how it works, how it gets applied, because there is a place for both of these elements, and I totally agree they can't be inconsistent with one another. But boy, my desire would certainly be that we wouldn't have to have this conversation every time one of these plans came up. I think it would save us all a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. Well, we will proceed. But thank you for those comments, and I'll try to get an agenda for that discussion, that sort of ongoing discussion. I would like to point out that because of this issue and other issues that have come before it, there does seem to have been a lack of communication between the director and the commission, and so he has agreed to re-establish the monthly director's luncheon. The first one is on October 18th. I would like to encourage all of you to be able to attend those. They're held downtown at City Hall. The next one is November 8th. I will not be present for that one. I will be out of town. And the next one is December 6th, so that if you could mark those on your calendar. And they do serve really good sandwiches and potato salad from Joffy's down on the first floor. So hopefully, Carol, remember that. Thank you. All right. Is there any other comments?
I need to speak.
Bruce.
Yeah, I just want to point out to the commission that I'm going to be off the commission in about another week or so. So, I mean, I'm willing to participate, but unless something happens, I'm not going to be participating.
I really appreciate that comment. Do we know anything about all that?
I know that I visited with the mayor's chief of staff, and that was presented to the mayor. I tried to get an answer today, and I didn't, Bruce, but I know that he's aware, and what we ask him to do is to keep you on until we get Title 23-1 to the Assembly. And I think that's kind of what you requested. I put that forward to the mayor. I know he has it. I just don't know that he's acted on it. And I will push again tomorrow with Mr. Baker. And I know the mayor knows it because I visited with him about it. And I didn't get any negative connotation at all. But I know that's a low priority on his staffing piece. But I will work on it tomorrow.
And I believe the regulation is that the mayor has 4 months to find a replacement, and so for 4 months that you retain your seat until notified that there's a replacement. All right, so keep showing up. Thank you, Bruce. All right, I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Commissioner Parks, seconded by Ms. Dean. Thank you very much. This meeting's adjourned.